What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to try to show you how to set up these little icons or logo types, and you can use your own font. You can customize your frame in your own way, and I'm going to try to break this video down into four parts. I'm going to start with creating with actual geometry, which is the font that you see here and the frame. Then I'm going to try to show you how to do all the lighting in this scene, and also the materials and the rendering. And if we pull up my picture viewer, as you can see, I was doing some other tests as well, but this is what it looks like without any post-production. This is what it looks like with post-production, where I added a lot of noise and a little detail. And from here, you can, create your own using your own fonts and your own frame. But anyway, let's jump in. Let's get started. So I'm going to create a new file, file new, and let me just delete these objects here. And I'm going to jump to from view, and I'm going to create a simple frame starting with rectangle. So now let's click C and make this editable. I'm going to click 1, 1, 2, and 3 as my shortcuts for points, edges, and polygons. So I'm going to click 1, click W for my live selection tool, and first let's create the insets that you've seen in the render. So I'm going to click KK and just by shift clicking and dragging add a few cuts in there. So that looks good. Now let's click W and select the inner points of each side, and I'm going to click T and scale them in. Oops, I think I selected something else by accident. Let me just select this again, click T and scale this in just like this. And also we can scale them out to try to match the same level of the other points. And now let's just make the insets a little bit bigger, maybe something like this, and that looks good. So let's just make sure all of these points are on the same level. As you can see, they're a little bit crooked, so I'm just going to hold and drag along to select all the points, click T, and just scale them down to 0 so they match. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom, click T, scale down to 0 so the level of all the points match horizontally. So now let's do the same thing for top and bottom, customize this frame a little bit more. So I'm going to click KK and do the same thing, add a little bit of cuts just like this. And now let's take the inner points and scale them in just a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Also, I'm going to select all the points and try to position it right in the middle here, following the y-axis line. And now what we're going to do is let's actually scale these in as well just a little bit. It's just to be a little different from my previous render. And now what we're going to do is select all of the points here, Control A, and right click to create outline. So this is going to be our frame for the typography. And now also what we can do is Control A one more time, right click, and we can do chamfer. What it's going to do is going to round all of these edges here. So something like this is nice. And this is basically our frame. So now if we jump out and select this rectangle, we'll just rename it frame. And by holding Alt, click in here and do an extrude, and it's going to extrude the frame for us. And also if you do display shading lines, it's going to show you how the geometry looks overall. And one thing I recommend is changing the frame or the spline to natural. It's going to give you more geometry and give you a nice little roundings. And now for the final part, let's do fillet cap. So we'll do caps, fillet cap. This is a little too much, and we're going to do maybe two-step and decrease the overall radius. And the steps or the resolution in this For the two-step fillet type doesn't matter, so I'm gonna leave it at 1 and 3. And yeah, we're pretty much done with our frame. So now let's do the typography or the text inside. Like I said, you can use any, let's rename this frame as well. Like I said, you can use any font you want. So let's just create a text. Jump to front view as well. Move this into the position. And let's do the same thing, X, like I did before. And for the font, there's this cool one that I downloaded. It's called Lethal Injection. If I can find it, let's see here. This one, no. Where is it? Scroll down, no. Oh, right here, Lethal Injection. And gives a really cool X at really sharp angles. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna scale this up. And we're gonna have two parts in there. So if I look back into my previous renders, as you can see, we have the inside portion and the outline. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me switch back. So let's take this and click C. And actually, before doing that, Control Z, I'm gonna copy paste. So we have two of them, and I'm gonna rename this outside, and this one inside. So let's take the inside, hide it for now. Let's take the outside, scale it up a little bit, click C, so we can edit some stuff. And let's see here, go to the points, select your spline, and select all of the points. So Control A, right click, create outline, something like this. Now it's going to break your outline depending on the font you use, but that's an easy fix. Just hit your live selection tool and delete the points that you don't want. So in this case, I'm going to bring the outline to about here and delete this point. And same thing here, it's a little bit messed up, so I'm going to extend it. Same thing here, we don't want this point here at all, so maybe match it up like this and delete this portion or delete this point. And same thing for the top here, try to match it a little bit so it looks a little bit better. And now for the sharp edges or the sharp points here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to chamfer them a little bit and give a little bit of rounding to the overall outline. So right click, chamfer, and round this up just like this. And this is basically our outline, guys. We're done with that, so we can go back to the object mode, jump out, and same thing, hold Alt, extrude. And for the frame we did, let's see, 20, so we do 25 here. And for the inside, no, for the outside outline, we're gonna do 20. So it's a little bit smaller. And let's just double check, make sure everything looks good. It's good. And let me just turn this off and on. Yeah, that looks good. So now we can just add some fillet caps as well. So we'll do fillet cap. The radius is way too much most of the time, so you can bring it down to 1. Add maybe 3 steps and just double check if you have any pinching going on. Let's go in here. If everything looks good, you can keep it. If not, you can play around with the intermediate points and, like I said, change it to natural or subdivided to get the problems fixed. So now let's do the same thing for the inside. Turn on the inside and hold Alt and same thing, extrude. And let's rename this inside. Now let's turn this off for now. Let's jump to the front view and let's see what's going on here. So let's take this and try to position it on the inside a little bit better. As you can see, it doesn't really match the outline as much, but that's no problem. We can fix it manually. So let's click C to make this editable, click 1 for points, and now let's play around with this here and create our own custom inside portion of this font. Like I said, each font has its own problems, so in this case I have to play around and fix some of this stuff. Let's do maybe like this, move these down just a bit. Yeah, that looks good. For this, I'm not going to round it. I'm just going to keep it the way it is. So maybe like this, move this in a little bit. Move these. Just try to match as much as possible here. Now let's take these 2 points, move them in, move this point down. And let's see what else. Yeah, here we have to move this away. Maybe move it down a little bit and move this in like this. So this is what we have so far. We can play around with this more and get it 100% perfect in terms of all the distance between the outline here, for example, and here. So actually, let's try to match this a little bit better. And also we can add. Yeah, let's move these up as well, just a tad. And also we can play around with the rounding as well for the outline, so we can match. Actually, yeah, let's do that. Let's take these 2 points and chamfer. And now let's select these 2 points and move them in and try to match the overall look here. So this is what we got so far. Let's just play around with this a little bit more. Yeah, that's going in, that's going out. And this can go in just a tiny bit more. Yep, and this is what we got so far. That's how you manually fix your font. Sometimes you get all these crazy fonts. Nothing's gonna work right outside the box. You kind of have to play around. Anyway, let's turn this on and just double check. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. So now we can add the filler cap for this as well. So let's do filler cap, radius 1, and steps 3. Yeah, and that looks good so far. Now we can just create the background or the floor. And let me just go back to the top view and select the inside and the outline as well, and move it in just like this. And that looks good. And now what we're gonna do is with the inside is take it and bring it out just like this. And that's what I had in my previous render. This was the look I was getting. Actually, for the frame, we can probably make it a little bit bigger in terms of extrusion. So maybe let's do 30 and check the top view and move it in something like this. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So now the last thing is the floor. Let's rotate it 90, scale it up and out. And we don't need any of these subdivisions, so what we're gonna do is do 1 and 1. And yep, so we're pretty much done with the geometry. Now we can do the materials and the lighting. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully this video helped you in any way. Please subscribe and have a nice day as always. Goodbye.